Scott here with my 10 cards, 1 kit video featuring the Love from Lizi November 2018 Frozen Forest card kit. As usual, I did take the 5 card stocks provided in the kit and cut them down to my card bases. I did replace the super smooth, Copic-friendly, alcohol marker-friendly cardstock that Lizi gives us. I did replace that with some of my plain 110-pound plain white cardstock. I also used a few pieces of my craft cardstock in these 10 cards as well. Now, this kit did feature a soft green and a blue-gray color palette with white and little touches of a peachy orange. Very interesting, non-traditional colors for a holiday kit. Now, I'm not much of a tag person. I've never been much of a tag person, and we had a ton of tags in this kit between our die-cut sheets and round tags and square tags and big tags and small tags. I thought I should try and use at least one tag on my cards. So I noticed that the glitter tag and the craft tag were both the same length, different widths but the same length, and I thought that was interesting. So for our first card on a craft card base, we've got a Noel card that has that washi tape that says Happy Christmas. A tag card. I actually did a tag card. I took those 2 tags and glued them on top of each other. Their holes even matched perfectly. I wrapped a piece of that 1/8 inch peach ribbon through that hole. I foam taped that up onto my background paper. Now, I chose this Noel die cut, and because it had the trees, I chose this blue tree pattern paper. I cut that out, of course, with one of my stitched rectangle lawn fawn dies. I did do a little distress inking on the edges with Faded Jeans Distress Oxide ink, used with a very light hand. I think that is very close to these blues in this kit. I mounted the Noel up on some foam tape on top of the tag, mounted with foam tape. I ran that washi tape on a piece of white cardstock, just a scrap piece of white cardstock, and trimmed that down to size, glued that directly to the card base, attached the ends of the ribbon with a couple of glue dots. I love the Noel sentiment. It says so much in one simple word, Happy Christmas, a few drops of the Nouveau drops highlighting the stars above those trees. A really nice introduction to this kit, a lovely, non-traditionally colored holiday card. Now, in my unboxing, I made a little to-do about one of the felt snowflakes that I said wasn't a snowflake because it had 8 points. So I decided that in order to vindicate my peccadillo, that I should at least create a card using that 8-pointed star. So I took my craft knife and some glue to that felt piece, and this is what we came up with on a craft card base. We've got a Star of Wonder card. And that, believe it or not, that is that 8-pointed snowflake. I performed major felt surgery on that and turned it into this nice little star, an 8-pointed star. This is a Star of the East. Oh, it works really nice. I really like this card a lot. I took the snow strip stamp and stamped it on the 2 sides of the card base using Hero Arts unicorn white ink. And then I attached some of that silver ribbon down to the card base as well. This piece of the blue, no pattern paper is 2 3/8 inches wide. That's as wide as I could get it. I think I cut this out of the piece that had the floral corners on it. But the plain blue, I wanted to put some snow. I wanted to use that snow stencil on this background. But I tell you, every little sampler pot of embellishment mousse or glitter paste that I have ever gotten is dead. Completely dead, dried, hard as a rock. I was wanting to use something through this stencil to make snow this month, so I did remember that I had some texture paste, some opaque matte texture paste. Now this dries kind of an off-white, and I grabbed my Distress Glitter Dust. This is the Vintage Platinum Glitter Dust. I mixed a whole bunch of this glitter in with my texture paste and made my own glimmer paste. Really nice, came out very nice. I love that. Really sparkly. All of that glitter works really well in that texture paste, and of course it's got some great texture. So I used the stencil and that texture paste on the background. I did go to my Silhouette software to create this sentiment. Star of Wonder I thought was very appropriate. This is in the Arabella font. I printed that directly on a scrap of that same blue pattern paper. And then I punched it out with one of my square nesting dies and just used my corner chomper to round the corners. Then I ran the edges of that around the edges of my silver Delicata ink pad to give it just a little bit of silver lining. I grabbed a bunch of gems out of my stash for the star, all clear gems. The star's mounted up on little pieces of foam tape, so there's some dimension there. The Star of Wonder is on foam tape. I took the deer sticker and stuck it down to a piece of white cardstock and fussy cut it out so I could put it up on some foam tape. A little piece of that burlap for a hill on the bottom. A really pretty card. Obviously Christmas. This card used lots of supplies from our kit this month. Beautiful. Now we got 6 of those terrific acetate sentiments in our kit this month. I really like them. They are so very pretty and very interesting on the front of a card. And my eye was drawn to one of them. My third card on a white card base, we've got a love card featuring 2 of the bunnies from the pattern paper. Oh, I really like this. This is a nice Valentine card. This could even be a wedding card if somebody's particularly into rabbits. I took this green foliage pattern paper that's cut at about 3 3/4 inches, glued that to my card base, some of the medium strips of the apple green mirror peel-offs down the sides, a piece of the burlap ribbon glued down with my multimedia matte glue. I took a little circle stitched die to cut out these 2 bunnies. This was from the pattern paper that had those 4 circular wreaths with animals inside them. I noticed there were 2 bunnies looking in opposite directions. So these guys are looking at each other. I did take another plain circle die and cut little silver mats for both of those bunnies, put those onto the burlap with some foam tape, a few specific sequins from the kit, and that little silver heart brad is from my stash. A nice love card featuring bunnies. Of course, if you've got 2 bunnies in love, you've always got more bunnies in the wings. So that's my little picture pun card for this month. A nice love card with 6 more babies on the inside. I hope whoever receives this card isn't quite as prolific as bunnies actually are. Now we got another one of those infinity stamps in our stamp set this month, and it's a big snowflake stamp. I was a little intimidated just looking at it, but I dove in with both feet and tried stamping it a bunch of times. It actually came out really great. I was very pleased at how easy it was to line this stamp up in every direction. This is 6 stamp impressions total. I believe it's 3 wide by 2 tall. I stamped this all with Broken China Distress Oxide ink, and I was so impressed with this great pattern paper that we created that I decided we needed to feature it on a card all by itself. So on another craft card base, we've got our Let It Snow card. This is really very simple, yet quite effective. Lots of shine and sparkle on that. I just picked out my favorite part of that stamped page and cut it out with one of my Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle dies. And I did take a little bit of that Broken China ink and sponged a little bit around the edges. I foam taped that whole background up to the craft card base. I then dug through our sequin mix and found every one of the little bitty brushed silver sequins and glued those into the middle of my larger snowflakes. And then I went in with my Sakura Stardust gel pen and put little spots of silver in the center of every other snowflake on this front. So nice. There's really a good amount of sparkle on this card. I stamped the sentiment, "Let it snow," in the same ink on a scrap of white cardstock. I embossed that with some clear embossing powder, fussy cut it out, foam taped it to the card front. It blends in so nicely, yet has enough shine and contrast to stand out. I really like this card. Let it snow. That infinity stamp is infinite. Now, I was itching to do some coloring with this card kit, but we didn't have any stamped images or anything to color. So ultimately, I reached for one of the pattern papers. This is card number 5 on a white card base. Love One Another. This is that pattern paper that had this little tableau in the center of a big circular wreath of flora and fauna. Really pretty card. I like this a lot. I took my colored pencils to that little tableau and very lightly colored all of the animals. I think that adds a whole lot to this, and it really points up the texture that is on these pattern papers. I cut that out with one of my Gina K oval dies. This is the large and the small set. Cut a mat with the matching die out of a piece of craft cardstock from my stash. This is the green pattern paper that had the corner frills that I cut out just the center section, so there's no pattern on this. This is 2.5 inches wide by 5.5 inches long. That's matted on a darker piece of that green pattern paper that's cut to 3 inches wide by 5.5 inches long. Those are matted together, glued directly down on the white card base. I did run that 1/4 inch peach ribbon through my Xyron sticker maker and glued that down at the edges of the pattern paper. We've got the skinniest peel-offs between the two pattern papers. We've got the largest peel-offs on the outside of the ribbon. Love One Another. I created this in my silhouette using my silhouette portrait. This is the Lucida handwriting font. Really nice. I did that on a folding banner that I created a couple of years ago. This is what it cuts out on the silhouette. This is how it folds to make a nice banner on your card. Love One Another. I think that's very appropriate. Merry Christmas card. This is the die from last year's Lizzie's Christmas kit. I just cut that out of a scrap of craft cardstock. Put this all together. Everything is mounted up with some foam tape. Nice dimension on that banner there. Nice color on the animals. I really think this is a pretty card. Love One Another is a perfect holiday sentiment. It's a little extra inspiring and pertinent these days. Now, I mentioned in my unboxing that I thought an acetate card might be in our future, so not to disappoint anybody, I grabbed the acetate and the vellum from our specialty card and came up with this next card. We've got a Hello Winter card. Ooh, I like this. Now, this is fairly thin acetate, but I thought I would throw caution to the wind and stamp all of our individual snowflakes using Versamark ink and some white embossing powder. Try and emboss that on the front of our card here. I was very careful with my heat gun, and it worked very nicely. Very, very pleased. Both pieces of the specialty cardstock were half of an A4 sheet, so I trimmed them both down till they were 5.5 inches wide, and then I scored them in the middle, which is about at 4 1/8. So it's a little bit narrower than a regular A2, but just as wide. Now, I know I wanted to line this acetate card with my vellum, but when I slid just the plain vellum in behind the acetate, you could see through the vellum to the backside, to what's going to be our writing surface. So I took a piece of that blue snowflake card. Actually, these are stars. They're 8-pointed, but that blue pattern paper. And I ran it through my 5-inch Xyron sticker maker upside down, so it put glue on the front of this pattern paper. And then I glued that straight down to the vellum. This is the front piece of that folded in half vellum. That really softened up that blue while still showing it. I stamped the Hello Winter, embossed that in white embossing powder in the center there. This is one of the stickers from the sheet. You add those snowflakes on top. That's really pretty, some great dimension. I actually used the die from the little stag die from our kit and cut that out of a scrap of craft cardstock to add to the inside. I think putting Daddy in there finishes up the little family scene. Hello Winter, a great fun acetate card. I did add a little circle of white behind our die cut stag so you couldn't see his glue through the back. Really pretty. I was so pleased with how this came out. I was so pleased that this acetate played nice with me and didn't all curl and crumple up. Hello Winter, that's our acetate card for this Christmas. Now, I've kind of been on a little bit of a wreath kick lately ever since I created my handmade wreath builder template, but I thought the little individual snowflake stamps from this stamp set would lend themselves to a very interesting snow wreath. So this is our next card on a white card base. Another Noel card. I tell you, I really like that sentiment. I really like this snow wreath. Oh, I think it is so soft and so unexpected. I stamped all of these snow stamps using the Hero Arts Soft Sky ink. That actually is a really good match for the light blue that's in our card kit. Soft Sky Hero Arts. I stamped this using my homemade wreath builder template. I really like this. This time I went through the sequin mix and picked out all of the smaller and smallest little iridescent sequins and used those to cover up the larger snowflakes on this. The Noel is from the sticker sheet, added to a little piece of cardstock and then foam taped up in the center of that wreath. This is all 3 pieces of our 1/8-inch satin ribbon tied in a nice bow attached to the bottom. Very soft, very elegant. I love this Noel card. I really like that snow wreath. I hope you aren't getting tired of wreaths coming from Scott. Now, when I mixed my own little glimmer paste to use on the snow stencil on this card, I had a bunch left over after I had done this background. So I just grabbed a bunch of craft card fronts that I had and started using those up and started stenciling the snow stencil with all of my craft card fronts that I could find. The last little bit of that homemade glimmer paste I put on top of one of the wood veneer die cut trees, and those led to this card. Oh joy. I like this so much. Oh, look at that tree. Oh, I was so pleased. That texture paste, I fiddled around with it with my little palette knife. That has so much glitter and sparkle in it. I think because that glitter was vintage platinum, that it had some of those brownish tones in it. I love it in the snow. I think the falling snow stencil is great, especially on this craft card base. I did cut my craft card front down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 and foam tape that up on a craft card base. I glued the tree directly to the card front. This has so much texture. I really love how it kind of looks like the tree boughs there. Really pleased with that. I found a little bitty clear star gem in my stash that fit on top of that tree perfectly. Of course, the Joy acetate sentiment is mounted up on thin strips of foam tape. I really like those acetate sentiments. And don't forget to peel the front off of them. There is a piece of protective film on the front, but look at how shiny and joyous those are. I really like this card. Very simple, very joyful. So if you watched my last 10 card video, I did my very first light up card using those Chibitronic lights. And I used 2 lights on that tree card. That meant I had 1 light left. So of course, I'm gonna do it one more time with this kit. And we get another Noel card with a press on the bottom and a light up star. Ooh, baby. Oh, I like that so much. I did sneak peek this star on the Love From Lizi Facebook group page. So pretty. I love this card. I knew I had this great pine bough clip art in my image stash. So I took 2 or 3 of those and put them all together to make a little tree top. I did, of course, shrink those down to size, and then I printed that directly on this blue pattern paper from our card kit. It worked very nicely. The blue and the green worked well together, so it printed very well on the top. I die cut our star die from the top where the star would be. And I also cut that pattern paper with one of my stitched rectangle dies. I then took a piece of 110-pound cardstock and cut it with the stitched rectangle die, laid it on top of the pattern paper, and marked exactly where that star is, and cut a second piece of card front with the star die. So now I have 2 pieces of cardstock on the front, and I glued a piece of vellum between them over the opening of the star. And then, of course, I die cut the star out of that silver mirror specialty cardstock and then just inlaid that back into its space on top of the tree. I did emboss the press from the My Favorite Things Interactive Labels stamp set. Emboss that over the battery. The circuit is all done on the card front. I used some more of that Faded Jeans Distress Oxide ink to ink up the edges of my white card base. I mounted the whole card front using 2 layers of foam tape over my battery and my light. A simple circuit. There are tons of videos on YouTube and at Chibitronics that will tell you how to circuit these. I won't get into that, but I used up my last Chibi light with this nice light up star on top of our Noel tree. Of course, that's the Noel from the acetate pieces. I used 3 of them this month. 3 out of 6, that's pretty good. I love this interactive card. I may be developing an addiction to light up cards. So pretty. Noel, Merry Christmas. Now, I did a spinner card in my last 10 card kit, and that got me to thinking about the possibility of doing a spinner card that was actually powered by a pull tab instead of just a wound up piece of thread. So for card number 10 here, this is on a white card base. We get our own people-powered spinner card. This features one of the large felt dies from the kit. The back comes completely away. Your pull tabs on the side. There you go. I don't think I've ever seen that anywhere before. Oh my goodness, this card took me a whole day to fiddle and fuss with. But hey, we got it, and it actually works. This is, of course, just a circle die punch through 2 pieces of cardstock. I did take a bamboo skewer, and I worked that bamboo skewer up through the middle of this felt snowflake. With the aid of my craft knife, I worked that up through the center of that snowflake, glued the snowflake to that skewer nice and firmly so it wouldn't go anywhere. Let's put some white behind it. There you go. There you go. That is just so much fun. This is white pattern paper from the card kit, of course, cut out with a stitched rectangle die. This is from the die cut sheet, Let It Snow, matted on some darker blue cardstock and mounted up with some foam tape. Now this skewer that goes through the center of the snowflake is actually inside a short little straw on the top and two little straws on the bottom. I'm going to have to finesse this. I had to take this baby apart 3 or 4 times and put it back together. That's why it's a little lumpy. It's a little wrinkly. Actually, the mechanism that drives this is basically the same thing as if you were starting a fire with 2 sticks and a string, where the skewer is one stick, the pull tab is the other stick, and there's a piece of string wrapped around that skewer there. Very, very fun. I'm so excited about this. I promise I will spend some more time with this and try to finesse its operation and make it a little simpler for everyone to do. And I promise I will do a how-to on this pull tab spinner card as soon as I possibly am able. I took all of the iridescent gems that we got in Lizzie's kit last month that I think I only used one of them, and I used almost all of them on both sides of this felt snowflake. Really nice glitter there. I just happen to have these little blue glitter snowflakes that match just perfectly in my stash. Those are from Oriental Trading Company, I'm sure. I'll have links to all of these products on my website at cardcutups.com. Another Let It Snow card. I am absolutely gobsmacked by this spinner card. I, of course, just die cut a simple piece of 110-pound white cardstock to be the back of this card. There is something that you can write on. There is something that you can play with. Oh my goodness. Makes me so happy. Looks like we've got 6 holiday cards here, 3 wintertime Let It Snow cards, and 1 Love Valentine card. That's a pretty good assortment. I really had a great time creating these cards. This is a fun, unique color palette for holiday cards. Now, I, of course, have gobs of leftovers. I actually only have 6 sheets of pattern paper that I didn't adulterate in some way or another, so that's pretty good. I used 12 sheets of the pattern paper. I did use all of the cardstock. I did use a few stickers. I'm not a big sticker person, but I used 3 of the stickers. I'm not a big tag and label person, but I did use 2 of our die-cut sentiments. Of course, I used some of the apple green mirror peel-offs. Those will go in my stash. I did use most of the embellishments in the kit. I think I used a little bit of all of the ribbon. I did use a couple of the tags. I used some of the felt pieces. I used a little bit of the Nouveau drops. I used both of the dies and some of the sequin mix. I didn't get around to using any of the little bitty mini jingle bells. I have to admit, I was a little crushed when I realized that they didn't jingle. I realize they're tiny, but it just reminds me of the Polar Express, where the little boy can't hear the jingle bell jingle because he doesn't believe in Santa Claus. I didn't use the white glitter cardstock. I don't know why. Did I forget it was there? Well, that will go in my stash. Of course, that great falling snow stencil and that terrifically fun infinity snow stamp will all find loving homes in my stash. As of posting, this kit is still available at lovefromlizi.com. Please use my link in the description down below if you go shopping at Love From Lizi. I can tell you, if I wasn't in the holiday spirit before working on these cards, I certainly am now. Oh, happy holidays to everybody. I hope you enjoyed these as much as I enjoyed bringing them to you. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your time with me here. Please like me, list me, pin me, post me, share me with all of your friends. Don't run with skewers. And as always, happy crafting. If you'd like more detailed information, better pictures, and product links, please visit my website at cardcutups.com.